Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the Nissan Juke in the hybrid version. The cheapest Nissan Juke that you can buy is going to set you back 20,790 euros in Germany. However, we have the Tecna variant and the hybrid variant with a couple of extra, and that's going to cost you a total of 35,030 euros. Let's start off with the design of the car and also the front. We can see in the front that we obviously have the facelift, which came out in 2019, and the hybrid version came out in 2021. We do have our lights on the side. These are LED daytime running lights, and down here we have our bigger kind of nuke style lights, which are going to be your high beams and also your, well, night lights. And in the front it looks like active aero, but it's not. It's just some honeycomb style in here, which actually doesn't open or close when you drive. We also have a fairly big diffuser or small diffuser down here, which actually does work as intakes as well. In general, Nissan Juke in the front, usually it looked fairly bad to me because the lights were up here, but now in this design it looks a little bit better as well with the color that we have on here, which is the metallic blue color as well as the two-tone color. With the, actually no, it's magnetic blue and with the metallic black, that's what it's called. Let's move on over to the side, where we can see that we actually have some fairly big wheels on here, which are 19-inch wheels. But one thing that you will definitely notice is that we have really small brakes on here, which we're definitely going to see once we're doing our brake test. But these things claimed 37.4 meters of distance for a braking distance from 100 to 0 or 60 to 0, so that is fairly big. Nissan claims a 37.4 meters. We're going to see if we can reach that. So 100 to 0, let's see what we can get. It certainly does slide a lot, and one thing we have noticed, it doesn't actually put on your warning blinkers, so it doesn't warn anybody that you just did a full brake. So if you're driving on the highway, anyone behind you is most likely not going to see that you just fully stopped on the road. Let's see what we got on the distance-wise. So 38 meters, we're going to do it one more time to see what we can get. So one more time from 100 to 0. 2.68, I think that's actually the fastest value we have been able to get. If you remember, the RS5 had a 2.60 100 to 0. So on this one we got 35 meters, which is really good. 37.4 is claimed. So 38 and 35, and the average we got on the other test was around, well, 36 meters or 37 meters. So even though the brakes are really tiny, actually doesn't seem to be doing too bad when it comes to a real-life test from a 100 to 0. If we go further on the side, we do have automatic foldable windows, or side mirrors, not windows. We also have, just so you know that you're driving the hybrid, down here. And again, the color looks very nice. We do have keyless go on the front as well, and a shark fin on the top. And just like in the Renault Megane E-Tech, for instance, you can open the door in the back with the little latch up here, just for some more aerodynamic features. A fuel tank, we have 46 liters with a fuel consumption of claimed around 4.9 up to 5 liters, which you can actually get. So we've been getting around 5.5 liters, which is a very good consumption considering we've been driving it for a little bit and also on the Autobahn. So that's a very good range. If we look onto the back, we can definitely see that, well, this is where I'm not a big fan of the car because it just looks very bulky and a little bit weird with this like latch out, which looks like a nose kind of thing. Somebody sniffing at you or stuff like that. Doesn't look the nicest. We do have a fairly big window and also a little bit of a spoiler up on the top. If you look at the lights, again, they're very bulky up on the top. They're basically flat and it just doesn't look that great. We do have a capacity of our towing capacity of 750 kilos or kilograms, which is not the biggest, but the car only weighs 1.4 tons. If we open the trunk, it doesn't open automatically, so you do have to lift it up. In here, you can definitely see we do have a very high ground clearance, so if you have heavier stuff, it's gonna be a little bit hard to lift them up. But in here, we have 354 liters of storage space. If you flip over the front seats, which we're gonna show you right now, you have 1,237 liters, which is an okay amount. Oh, geez. And we do... We do also have a little bit of storage space down here. If you flip this over, you can obviously have a little bit more, but then you have this very big lip in here, which is not the nice. So this is a little bit nicer, but again, it is fairly hard to load stuff in here because it is so high. So if you have heavy stuff, it's going to be not the greatest. The car is supposed to be a small city compact crossover kind of vehicle, and definitely does its job for that because it is fairly small and nice to get into. But again, the loading capacity or the loading height in here is just not my style. Let's actually check out the engine and also the interior. The engine that we have on here is the same as in the Renault Clio, the Renault Arcana, or the Dacia Jogger, which we've all tested. So if you want to check those out, there's going to be some links on the top there, also in the description, also on our channel. One thing that you might notice is, well, this contraption doesn't look the safest if you come a little bit closer. If you take it out and then you pop it in here, you can see, ooh, that bends a lot. So I don't know, it might not hold up all the time. So if you're under here, you're gonna be decapitated? Decapitated, that's what it's called. So like I said, same engine in here, which means we have 143 horsepower in total with 148 newton meters of our 4-cylinder engine, which is a 1.6 liter engine, and also 205 newton meters on our electrical engine, which is going to produce 49 horsepower, and the other one is going to produce 94 horsepower. So in conclusion, a fairly decent sized motor for the car, only weighing at 1.4 tons, and it's supposed to get you from 0 to 100 in 10.1 seconds, and also has a top speed of 166 kilometers an hour. All of that, well, not the top speed, we're going to check out in a second here once we're doing our 0 to 100 test. So for the 0 to 100 test, we turned off traction control and we also went into the sport mode, which you can do via the drive modes right here. So let's do a full stop and then we're going to do a kick down to see how fast we can go from 0 to 100. Claimed is 10.1 seconds. Let's see if we can actually get that. And just the start is really, really slow in my opinion. At around 40, the motor actually starts to kick in. 5.18 and 100 in 11.12, so not good at all. The 5.12 actually, I think that was the fastest 0 to 60 value that we had, but the 0 to 100 definitely lacked a little bit of power there. You can definitely feel that. We'll do it one more time to see if we can actually get it close to that, 10.1, but the closest we have been able to get so far was 10.42, so, and that was out of 8 tries, so it really isn't consistent. So I did try it with a full kickdown on the brake, so we're just gonna not do that this time, and we're just gonna stop it and then kick the floor. But it just really, like, I don't know if, even though in sport, it doesn't kick in the internal combustion engine straight away, which I don't completely understand. 11.4, well, I'm just a bad driver, I assume, because the fastest we've been able to get was 10.4, so you are able to reach low 10s, I'd say, or mid 10s, but it really isn't really repetitive. It never really gets that full 10.1 seconds. The same motor as we had in the Arcana, for instance. In the Arcana was around 10.8, so, or 7.2, that was the fastest we got in there. So this definitely is a little bit slower than the Arcana, even though it is fairly lighter. My first impression of the interior of the Nissan Juke was a little bit, well, it feels very cheap when you get in here. It obviously is a cheap car if you get the non-hybrid version, but this already 35,000 euros, you would expect a little bit more, or maybe it's just my opinion, but it just doesn't look that great. When you get in here, it doesn't feel that nice. Obviously, the facelift version came out in 2019, so it's a little bit older car, but the hybrid version came out in 2021, but it has the interior of the 29 version, so it does obviously just have a couple of changes, which we're going to look at. But you can definitely see, quality-wise, up here, you do have a fairly good, like, leather fake stuff, and further down, you also have some leather fake stuff with some white stitching, and also with your sound system on the bottom and space for a water bottle and some other stuff in the back. And you also have this all around. You have this, I don't know what it exactly is, but like a plastic thing, which is like a glossy black thing, which is better than piano black in my opinion, but it doesn't feel that high quality. You have it on your air conditioning, you have it in the center console and also on the side. But it definitely is better than piano black because you don't see the scratches that quick, and it just doesn't look that bad after time. You also have a fairly small infotainment display, which has the optional TomTom navigation in there, which works fairly decent, and you also have a 360-degree camera, but we're going to look at that once we're driving a little bit more. Up here we do again have a good fabric up here, I like that, and as well the black down here with 3-zone climate control, which is nice. Well, it's not a 3-zone climate control, but you just have 3 different zones with one temperature in the middle, so you can't change the temperature for the right and the left side. You also have some ports down here, 12-volt charger, and also a USB cable in there, and also a climate control with heated seats, which is nice, and they are not electrical on either sides. You also have 2 cup holders in here, your D mode in here, and also our gear, as well as park, reverse, neutral, and drive, obviously. We do also have an E-pedal, which you could theoretically almost use like a 1-pedal drive. We'll check that out once we're driving. And the cup holders in here are fairly small, so you're going to fit fairly small bottles in here. And then further on, we do have a very tiny storage space in there, which is not going to allow you to basically store much in there. When we're talking about the seats, they are fairly comfortable. You can sit in here for a decent amount of time. However, one thing that is a little bit annoying is you can't adjust your headrest, so that might be a little bit constraining after a while. And you can also tickle the person in front with that thing right there. If you look at further up top, very big sunshades in here, and also a fairly big glove box, which is nice. But other than that, that's basically the gist for the front. The space in the back is also fairly decent for a small city car. Well, not a small city car, but it's a compact city car. You have a good amount of legroom. You do have some storage space in the middle. Your headroom is also very good. So if you're up to 1.9 meters, you're probably going to be fine. After that, you're going to be a little bit of, well, you're going to have a little bit of headroom issues. The roof also fairly nice. We do have this like fabric up here, which is in black, so it fits in perfectly with the other stuff. On the side, again, we do have good quality wherever you touch, where you have your arms, but then on the other side, basically where the hook is and stuff like that, you're not going to have the best quality. It's mostly plastic. If you take a look at the seats in front, you obviously do have the headrest where you can just put your hand through. Like I said, you do have a little bit of storage space, and you also don't have any climate in the back, but you do have a USB cable up in here and some storage space down there where you can put stuff in there. I don't know what you want to put in there. We also don't have a big center, center console kind of thing or hump. So it's a fairly small one, almost like an electric car, which is nice. The seats in here are also fairly good with easy to reach isofix points and adjustable headrest in the back, which is nice. If you wanted to flip over the center console, you can't actually do that. So you don't have any way you can hang your arm in there or stuff like that, and you also can't flip over the center console. You have to flip over the 2x1 configuration. You're mostly going to use this car in the city because that is what the car is meant for, a compact city car. And you do have a couple of system features which are going to make your life a little bit easier. For instance, you do have a 360-degree camera, which doesn't have the highest quality, and you can also see it has the black bars and you can't move it around. But you obviously have it, so it's going to make it a little bit more comfortable when you're parking or entering. But one thing, or exiting. But one thing that is not the nicest is as soon as you want to go forward again, it's going to switch off the camera. And if you want to go back to the camera, you have to go in reverse, or you can also press D and then you have to go in there. So you have the camera in the front. So if you're doing tight parking, you're always going to have to use that, which is not going to be the nicest thing. You can definitely see that thing. It's not the highest quality camera. But again, you have it for a car that is fairly inexpensive, which is a good thing. You also have a car that is fairly practical due to the fact that it is only 4.21 meters long and 1.80 meters wide, which is not wide at all. But it doesn't feel that small in the inside. You also get a fairly good surrounding view apart from your pillar, the C-pillar in the back, which is fairly big, but the rear window is fairly big. You can see clearly out of that. With the rear view camera, you have no trouble in the city, and you also have a fairly good trunk space. And the other thing that is fairly good is that it is a higher small compact vehicle, so it's going to allow you for easy entering and exiting. On top of that, you also have a fairly high turning radius of 11.5 meters, which is not going to be allowing you to be very maneuverable in the city. However, with all the safety features and the rear view cameras and the 360-degree cameras, it should be no trouble to be safe in the city. Obviously, you do also have a good engine for the city because at 143 horsepower, that is going to do its job fairly decently. So while we're talking about the engine, let's quickly check out what our fuel consumption is. We've probably been driving at around 250 kilometers or 270 now since we have fueled it up last time, so since it was delivered to us. And since then we have been using 6 liters. That is, well, went up by 0.6 liters because we've been driving mostly sporty around here, because we've been doing a couple of reviews and also the 0 to 100 test, but claimed is 4.9 up to 5, and we can definitely get it down to 4.7. If we drive very friendly, we can definitely get it down to that. We can also use our EV button, which is going to allow you to fully drive electric. That mostly only works if your battery is fully charged, and then it's going to take a little bit to actually, or it's not going to allow you to drive a lot of it, because then it's just going to drain the battery fairly quickly, and then it's just going to run out of that EV mode. You also have the e-pedal drive, which is basically like an electric mode, or one pedal drive, I mean, not electric mode. We can press that real quick and we can see we have the e-pedal, and it's basically, well, it's not a full one pedal drive, but if you take into consideration, or if you look at regular cars, plug-in hybrid, stuff like that, you usually have brake mode. And that's basically what it is. It's not going to allow you to fully one-pedal drive in the city, but it's just going to be very strong in recuperation, as you can see right here. Like, it's not the strongest, but it just makes the recuperation a little bit stronger compared to when it's off. We do also have quite a decent amount of safety features in here for the base version of the car that you can get. with lane assist, blind spot mirroring, adaptive cruise control, lane centralization assist, everything that you basically need to be comfortably driving on the highway without having to do much. You can obviously press the blue button. We're in the city now, so it's not going to work. And you can press set, and then it's going to hold your speed limit that you put on there, and it's also going to steer automatically for you if it sees the lanes of the road. It actually works fairly decent. We have been able to use it a couple of times, as well as on like construction sites. It works fairly decent. So if you drive through it, you're obviously going to have to touch it every 20 seconds. Other than that, it works perfectly fine. It's going to allow you to have a very smooth ride on the highway. When I'm talking about comfort of the car, the seats feel good. But then the other thing is that you don't have the most comfortable isolation in the car. The car is not that well isolated. The tire noises, you can hear them a little bit, but not that much. But one thing that you definitely notice is, for instance, the wind noises, which get fairly high when you're driving a little bit faster. And if you're going on the Autobahn like 120, you're gonna have to speak up to talk to somebody beside you, or you can just listen to music or stuff like that, whatever you want. But then you also have the engine, which produces a fairly high sound due to the fact that when it kicks in at high RPM to charge the battery. So what's my final verdict on the Nissan Juke Hybrid? Obviously, a hybrid version is going to cost you a little bit extra, 9,000 euros, which really depends. Do you really want that? Do you need that? It is obviously going to give you a little bit of a bigger engine, which is going to be comfortable for driving in the city, and the fuel consumption is also going to go down. But theoretically, would you need it? It really depends on if you want it or not. You don't get an E license plate, so it's not really going to do much justice for you in that place. Other than that, you get a compact city car that is going to allow you to do various things. You have a good amount of trunk space, you have a fairly comfortable cabin, and it's also going to allow you to drive very, very comfortable and safe in the city. So in general, it is a good car that Nissan has brought out here with the Nissan Juke, and in my opinion, the design is a little bit better than the previous versions. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, and we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Until then, bye bye.